Hello, imaginary friends, and welcome to the Imaginary's Literary Podcast. Hello, everybody. Today we have a very special guest. It's Cindi Bryan. She is the acquisitions editor at Literary Wanderlust, a small traditional publisher. Cindi and I have a relationship from a few years ago when I pitched one of my books to her, and we've kept in touch ever since. She has graciously agreed to come talk to us about all things literature. So, Cindi, can you just tell me what is the job of a acquisitions editor?
Well, it will vary from publisher to publisher. So what I will tell you is what I do.
Okay, before we really get into the discussion, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, especially if you know somebody who is writing and is looking to get published. Make sure you share it with them. And don't forget to comment. It really helps us out a lot. So on with the conversation.
All of the editors at my company, at Literary Wanderlust, we all do the same essential job. And that is we choose first from our slush pile. That's all of the many queries we get. And we choose from among them the ones that interest us. If you've gone through the process of querying, you know that we look at a query for a while, depending on the individual, before we decide to whether or not to read the manuscript. I'll take a while, depending. And then if we read the manuscript, we'll take a while longer. And then the acquiring comes at that point when we decide if we want to contract with that book. Then my job is to convince my senior editor that the book is sellable, and so I have to pitch it. I have to pull it all together and I have to make comps. This is why comps are very important, because if you don't have comps, I may not have comps to use for my pitch. They're important for a lot of good reasons, but that's a really good reason, because I have to have comps to give to my senior editor to prove that there are other books in the market that sell, that are similar in some way to this book.
Okay, so I think you've just explained it, but for those who may not know, what are comps?
Comparative titles.
Okay.
They are books like your book.
Yeah.
They may not be the same story arc. They may not have the same kind of theme. They may not have the same kind of style, but they may have one of those things. And you can say that when you list a comp. And if you need several, to say, it's sort of the style of this book, but it's sort of a story arc similar to this one, or and some people will throw in a TV show or a movie, and that's okay as long as it's not all movies, that kind of thing. In my job, I'll offer the senior editor comps and reasons for being able to sell the book, and I'll say, this is why I love it. We have to love it because we have to spend a year with these books.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I'm going to be working with this book for a year, and then the other production people are going to work with it for a while too. But the author and I are going to spend quite a bit of time with it. So our senior editor, not every publishing company does this, but our senior editor wants us to love the books that we contract.
Fantastic.
We can do that because we're a very small publisher, and that's what we do. And that's one of her goals, is to make good relationships with authors and to sell books that we love, and we can really sell them in our hearts. I love this book, so I want to sell it, and I want to make it the best I can. And so we will partner with our authors to make great books as much as possible.
Awesome. That's great.
We appreciate that.
I love that.
I do too. And it's worth sticking through, some of the dry times and some of the times when I'm not finding the books that I love, but it's worth working through it. And at the end of a year when it's a bit of a drag and we're all just trying to pull ourselves along through those last couple of months of dry copy editing, and is this what we wanted to finish with? Is this our last pass and all that kind of stuff? It's all worth it because we do love it and we've gotten through it in the end and all that. But in the end, I'll present my case to the editor, and when we've gotten that far, she'll agree. Because I don't get that far unless I'm pretty sure of it,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
After I go through all of that acquisition part, then our editors go ahead and do the whole editing process. We don't pass it off like a big publisher would probably. They would then pass it off to a developmental editor and then a copy editor or whatever. But we do the whole shooting match. I'll be with the manuscript from the word go until it's ready for proofreading, and then it goes to somebody else.
Is that your favorite aspect of the, like, you get a manuscript that is rough around the edges and you enjoy then sanding down and making it like a perfectly round book?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know what a perfectly round book is, but yes,
I want that book.
I'll say yes to that. Yeah. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
A
But
book you can skip across the water, you know?
yeah. No, I love developmental editing. I do. I think that's great. I chart every book that I get from start to finish, before I do anything else. I chart it because that's the best way to find any little quirky gaps that have slipped through,
Yeah.
and then I get to know the book in and out, and then we go from there, and we do anything developmentally, and then we do line edits, and if necessary, and then we do a copy edit, and we do whatever needs to be done. Some
Yeah.
need more, and some don't need much. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. We take every book for where it is, and every author for where they start, depending on the manuscript, and it's sort of up to the editor and the editor's choice. It's up to my choice. If I don't want to do all that at a certain point, then I'll make sure I don't pick a manuscript that needs a lot. But if I love the story enough and I say, gee, I think we're going to need to do a lot of work, and I talk with my senior editor about it, and she says, if you're game, then we'll see what happens, then we'll do it. That's how it works.
Can you explain to me what a slush pile is? I know what it is, but again, in case for those who don't know, can you tell me what the slush pile is?
A slush pile is, we use Query Manager at Literary Wanderlust. Different agencies and different publishers, some people just have their emails open for queries. It's essentially the same. Queries come in by whatever fashion, and we call that a slush pile. It's just lingo. It just means the pile of queries that are stacking up. Obviously, at some point in time, they used to be physical and they would come in the mail, and I'm pretty glad I'm not doing it that way. I came in later than those days, so I don't have to deal with the mail and the outgoing mail for all the rejections and all of the maybe send me this, or maybe you want to change this before you send another query. And that would just be mind-boggling for me. So thank goodness for email and electronics, because it has changed publishing and made it so much more possible. My slush pile is an electronic slush pile, and personally I keep a file on my computer that has a list of all the things, because it's embarrassing when the senior editor comes back and says, did you know you have one from 6 months that you didn't answer? No, I did not. And I feel horrible. It's a terrible feeling, I've heard stories that some people go way longer than that, but we're careful, and somebody's got my back on that one, so we're not going to go much longer than that without catching up. But that's a slush pile.
That's reassuring to me, because I can't tell you how many times I've sent out a query, especially like with my first book. I sent out so many queries, and then I would hear nothing, and I'm like, does that mean they hate it? Does that mean I should quit? Like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, you just don't know.
I don't understand. We're small, but part of the beauty of Query Manager is it will help you stay on track. We're doing this so that people can get their books published. Who wants to be mean? That's not the point of it. It's not to be mean. It's to be helpful and to do everything we can. And my senior editor, who started our publishing company, her goal was to help people get their books published.
Man, we got to get that. I got to make that a short and just put it out and be like, hey, agents everywhere, listen to this. This is the mindset you need to have. Yeah. That's such a good heart. And that was one of the things that like drew me to you when we talked. When we first talked, I was like, oh my gosh, like this lady is like a real person. Because I would talk to people. I've worked in LA, I've worked in New York City, and it's like, people are just, I don't know, like they're not there with you. They're not there talking to you. They're not looking you in the eye. They're not listening to you.
Just a human ATM.
They're like, exactly. And
you put in, you take out.
When I sat down with, and it's not like that with every agent. I've met some other amazing agents as well. But when I sat down with you, I just felt like I was having a real conversation with a real person who knew what she was talking about. And it was a blast. I had such a good time. And then when we kept in touch, I was like, dude, this is great. Like, this is real. And it was fantastic. So if you have this will come later again, but if you are looking for somebody to query Cindi. She's awesome, and she will definitely get back to you, and she will tell you what needs
provided
to be done.
your genres actually match what she's looking for.
Right, exactly.
Just to be
We'll
clear.
get into that later too. We will
I was
answer
gonna
that
say,
later. Yeah.
we are definitely going to talk about what you're looking for. But I was thinking of this the other day because I was watching the film Saving Mr. Banks, and it's all about Disney
enjoyed
trying
that.
to get the rights to Mary Poppins, right? And she is just like, everything needs to be exactly this way because that's how she is with her. That's how the author was with her books. And so, how do you deal with authors that are like that? Have you run into anybody who is like, my words are my words and it needs to be exactly this and I will not move on any changes? Have you dealt with that?
No,
Okay,
I
good.
have not.
Interesting.
That's good.
Generally, authors who are querying small publishers know that they really don't have the opportunity at that level to be
Sure.
quite so demanding. Because mainly we publish new authors and newish authors. Honestly, if you had an agent and could be at one of the imprints of HarperCollins, you probably won't be querying publishers who only put out 25 books a year. That's just the way it is. And if you can get published by an imprint of Harper or Simon Schuster, one of the big five, then go for it.
Yeah.
Honestly, go for it if you can do it. But the majority of authors looking to get published aren't going to get that right off the bat. And most authors don't want to just hope for that to happen before they die. They would like to go ahead and get published, and not everybody wants to self-publish.
Right.
So there is some in between, you know. And it's not good, bad, or ugly. It's just the way it is. It's just different opportunities.
Have you had tears of somebody who's been like, "Oh no, I don't want to do this," or anything?
Are you
along
talking
those
about
lines?
tears
I've never-
or tears?
Yes, tears. No,
The
no,
actual-
like
okay.
tears. Like,
No, we it's a partnership. I always say if I make a recommendation that's really not what you want and doesn't fit your vision, talk to me about it.
yeah,
We're not. Said I'm not an authoritarian kind of editor. This is, if I've missed something and if I make a suggestion that just misses the boat, let me know. We need to work it out. I'm not going to say this is the way and I know better because I didn't write the book.
right.
I want to make it better. I don't want to take it away from you and change it.
Yeah,
And if I've done something that changes the voice and I don't realize it, I tell every author, everything I write in my notes, even if I forget to be specific in every single one, it's a suggestion and we need to talk it through. If you don't like it, that's okay, but we'll talk it out.
yeah,
Sometimes if it's a comma, it's maybe not a suggestion. It's just get over it. But
Yeah.
authors generally don't care that much about commas. They care about word choices and characters and, development and that kind of thing and plot. But the commas, I don't get the impression that I've ever had an author who cared very much about punctuation.
yeah.
Except you love your exclamation points.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That's always a sticking point.
Interesting.
We have to cut a lot of exclamation points in publishing.
That's ringing true.
That's really funny.
hit
We
me.
do.
You hit me right in
I
the
know
heart.
it hurts, doesn't it? It hurts.
Oh,
We have
that's
to cut a
awesome.
lot of them.
Hi. If you want to watch something, watch this. Or maybe it's over here. I don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to be somewhere.